Welcome to your Rocketwoman show. Are you looking to 10x your business while attracting your soulmate, finding eternal happiness and receiving the one solution to all of your problems? I promise you, you will find none of the above in this podcast. Your Rocketwoman has something far more precious for you. We'll get real and talk about the nitty-grittiness of life. From A as in anxiety, to L as in lol, to Z as in zest for life, we'll cover the whole spectrum. All of my guests are my heroes that have inspired me along the way. And here's the totally amazing rocket deal. I chat with my heroes and then they tell me which of their heroes I should invite on the show next. So every other episode we get to expand our universe beyond into the unknown, ever expanding and growing. I hope you enjoy this show, and it's an honor to inspire your rocket launch. Welcome to the Rocketwoman show as I'm kicking off season 2. Welcome. You might have paid attention to my announcement that I will be doing these shows bi-weekly now, so that means that a new episode will come to you every 2 weeks. And I'm doing this because I want us to be more present, slow down, and really make sure that we can digest all of the wisdom and inspiration rather than just consuming more and more content. So today, season 2, episode 1, I'm speaking with MAGIC KATHI, as I know her from Instagram. I've been following Kathy for a while now, since she's also just a great coach and teacher for human design, the gene keys, and astrology. And if you followed me for a while, you know that these things really get my juices going. I get really excited about deeper insights into how energy works and how our universe cooperates with us. So Kathy, you have to go meet her on Instagram. Kathy has shared a lot with me about her perspective on our cells, our DNA, what changes we're going through, what's coming beyond 2027, and how we're really meant to be here to operate from our instincts and our inherent wisdom that's always trying to speak with us and through us. So just had a great conversation. I'm so grateful that Kathy joined me. Go find her on Instagram and listen to her podcast. I'm going to link all of the links here in the show notes. So I hope you enjoy, and I'll get to speak with a friend of Kathy's in 2 weeks. Her recommendation is I speak with Lisa, so I'm really excited about that, and we'll meet again in the universe in 2 weeks. Take care, everybody. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Rocketwoman show. Season 2 is beginning today, and my very first guest on season 2 is MAGIC KATHI. I don't know if I should actually introduce you as MAGIC KATHI, but that's how I perceive you. That's how I got to know you through Instagram. Welcome, 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 Kathy. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you so much, Sandra. It's my pleasure actually to, be the fire starter for your second season, and then also on the new moon in Leo, we get to talk. And I am a Leo, so I'm very excited about this. And you can obviously say magic. My full name is Katharina Hillenberg, but it's like very German. So I like to go with MAGIC KATHI. It's pretty much easier. And yeah, I'm very excited for our talk today.
Yeah, it's fantastic. We've never met in person, so actually this is a talk in the universe. If you followed me for a while, but this talk is happening in my living room because I've been following Kathy for I think a few months now, and she's doing forecasts. She's combining all of the things that I love so deeply, and she's really the embodiment of walking her talk and really living energy and living the prophecy of all is going to be well. So I'm excited to meet you in person for the first time, and I'd love to introduce you to our audience a little bit. So why don't you say a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, everything you just said. First of all, thank you so much for, seeing and recognizing and like honoring what I put together. And my passion has always been to make other people as excited about these tools or systems of existence as I like to say. It's also the name of my new podcast, where I combine just talking about the current energies, gene keys, human design, astrology. I work deeply with evolutionary astrology. It's been my, go-tos for years now, but I also love the gene keys. I love human design and basically everything that helps us understand a little bit better what our energetic potential is, and yeah, align with the highest potential out there. Because for me, it's always been, there was this calling in I think it was 2017, where all of a sudden I had this huge download of like, everyone needs to know why they're here. And I was like, what does that mean? Like, I was confused, like, why am I here? I mean, great. But I now I have to go out into the world and say, everyone has to do why they came here, because otherwise there won't be harmony. Like, that was the message that was in my head. And I'm like, it makes sense, but how do I help people understand, right? How do I know? And I think that was really when Pandora's box opened for me, where I was like so passionate about finding out how can I help people understand why they're here. But I also knew that I'm not helping anyone to understand. I'm reminding them. I'm helping them to remember. And so everything that I do is really just helping you remember, because deep down in your cells, I work a lot with the DNA as well, and like the understanding of what's really stored in our DNA. A lot of people talk about junk DNA and all of that stuff. It's more like the hidden, coded, corrupted files, right? The unused data that we don't even know how to access, that we have to learn how to access again. And then everything is there. Everything is there. And the more we work with our energy field, with our energy body, the more we remember. And every time you read something, your cells remember. Every time you listen to something, your cells remember. Again, that's also why I have the podcast Systems of Existence, talking about different systems that help us remember, that's why, and then you have these deja vu or these downloads, and you're like, oh, now it makes sense, why I've always been interested in these topics or all of these things. So I don't even know if I answered your question, but I already went into a tangent. So yeah.
But that's fine. I think my audience, the people that have followed me for a while, know that my rocket goes into all directions at the same time. So it's all good. We're weaving all of this together, I'm sure. And again, just I love riffing. And just prior to this recording, we both agreed that we love just being in the moment and just seeing what wants to unfold and just flowing with that. So yeah, that's definitely very much to my liking. I know that you don't live in Germany. You're German the same as me, and I don't live in Germany anymore. Where do you live and how did you get there?
Well, in 2020, when shit hits the fan in the world, I mean, I never wanted to really live in Germany anyways. And I started, I had a breakup in 2019, and then I was like, do I get my own place now in Germany, or what do I do? And I mean, I'm a Sag rising, so North, Not in Sag. So I started traveling. So I lived in Spain and I lived all over the world. And in 2020, set up my business in Dubai. So just solely for obviously logistical reasons, and never really planned to be here too much. But for some reason, the place always kept calling me back, kept calling me back. I also have to come here at some point for the visa stuff. But yeah, so I've spent a lot of time in Dubai, and that's where I'm right now. But I'm actually about to go to Bali now. And yeah, I lived all over the place in Mexico, wherever the earth calls me. Like I have this huge, and I hadn't had that for a while up until Bali now, where I just feel that a specific place is working with me, like wants me to be there. And sometimes it's really, not nice, I want to say. I'm not saying not nice, it's first world problems, but it's more like the human in me is like, oh, really? Do we have to do this? Like,
Yeah.
what? Do you really want me to go there? Like, I don't even know how to do with the logistics and stuff like that. So the human in me is not pleased, but the soul is like, it's exciting. You have this contract right there. That's also, I work with astrocartography as well.
Mm-hmm.
So then sometimes I look at my astrocartography, I'm like, okay, that's the next upgrade that is going to wait. And then the alignments around, you know, when places call me and stuff, I'm like, I do a deep grid work there too. So yeah, that's also again why I haven't really had a base yet. The human in me always was like, I need a base, and you know, my moon is the second house and in Capricorn, so it's like, can we have some stability? But yeah, no. I haven't had that calling to go anywhere for almost 2 years now, and Bali has been the next thing. So I don't know why. I usually go there and then see. And so the next chapter is going to be continued.
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, let's talk about that, right? Like I think the deepest calling for every human being is freedom, right? Like to live in freedom. And we've put all kinds of meanings on what does that look like, right? Like how does that show up? And then, you know, the mind gets involved and sort of puts all of these other labels onto it. But ultimately, walking on this journey or walking this path and being in freedom doesn't necessarily mean that the mind agrees or that the mind finds it pleasant, right? I think this is a great way to just dive into the human's idea of existence or life or a happy life or a fulfilled life versus purpose and calling.
Yes, I mean, perfect talk or conversation, honestly, also because Mercury just stations like a dead stop and will be retrograding tomorrow. Obviously, not when you listen to this episode, but when we record. So it's all about the mind. It's all about these habitual thoughts and programs that we have learned really over our life, because when we are born, we are blank slate, right? And then
Mm,
we learn. I just said it on another podcast where I was interviewed. I said, like, you know, we come here, we know love, and then we learn fear. And the
mm,
process of us really is to erase all the corrupted files in our system that, you know, promote the state of fear in us, because that's not our nature. And fear, anxiety, stress, it's really all just mind. It's all mental. It's all the mental construct. And when you are able to observe that, it doesn't mean that it's just going to be gone, but you can see it with um, I almost want to say with a little smile. You know, it's like, oh,
mm.
you're afraid again. Oh, you're afraid again. Oh, you're afraid again. You know, where you have to be your own cheerleader or spokesperson, because the mind is not your enemy. You know, some people think that all the time. It's just a protector in a way, right? That
Mm.
wants to protect us through a specific program, through a specific way of seeing the world, because it's predictable. And predictable always feels like, oh, it's certain, right? And so, yeah, we just have to be the soothing agent of our mind. And then the mind will not be as loud and strong and like overpowering anymore.
Yeah, and all of these constructs that humanity or, you know, like the human has put into place to um, basically pretend that you're safe and that, you know, everything is secured and stable. That's not part of what we came here for, right? Like no evolution happens in the comfort zone of a safe built construct. And that's also why I love human design and the gene keys and astrology, because it really gives us a hint of something that we've always felt intuitively resonating with. I think, like, you know, everybody has their inherent feeling of, for example, it just always calls me to travel, like you, and then you find out, okay, you're a Sag rising. Oh, no worries. You're actually supposed to be doing that and explore the world. But we've become so comfortable in our little bubbles of let's pretend we're stable and secure that actually the people that are willing to go beyond that, at least in the past, or, you know, from my generation where I come from, and being German, of course, you're sort of made out to be this chaotic, um, independable human being that's just reckless, right? So I find it really interesting to talk about this aspect of what we naturally feel calling from within, what pulls us, and then breaking beyond these structures. Like you say, it's really in the cells.
Yeah, and it's not easy. I mean, if I can put it into one word, my family still thinks I lost my mind, right? Well, in a good way. And they are waiting still, like, they're waiting probably until, they transition when I will get my shit together, so to speak. Like I'm kind of like a mess, and my life is a mess because nothing is really like, she doesn't have a husband, she's not married, she doesn't have children, she doesn't even have a place to live, like she doesn't even have a bank account, like what's even happening, no health insurance, like what's happening, this lady is like on the verge of dying because it's so against what they know is the safe way or the normal, let's just say, way of living life. And I mean, I have so much retrogrades in my chart, Saturn and Uranus, and Uranus, the first planet after my ascendant. And yeah, I have, gene key 43 is my soul. So it's like, I'm here to be the rebel. And that's like not something I enjoy so much with my Libra midheaven all the time. And I always was like, I just want harmony and peace by being the rebel. But then I understood, yes, because being a rebel for change, because the way we are living right now that looks, from the outside, oh yeah, it's all set in stone, it's all predictable, so there is peace and harmony and balance. It's exactly the opposite. So it's such a false flag. And so someone needs to shake this stuff up so we can come to actual harmony, to actual freedom, to actual peace, because it's not really serving the soul. It's just like keeping us in boxes and like not really helping us to live to our fullest potential. And the people that don't understand that, they are not ready for that kind of change anyways. And there's no point in convincing them, right? It's more we have to, I'm a 6-2 anyways. We have to just model it so they
Yeah.
feel we have to model it in silence, then can watch, and then at some point they might ask, you know and it's been that way. At some point my dad literally asked me like, what is this with the sound and like the singing bowls and like what do you do that, like maybe that could help me, because he was lost with the medical system not being able to help him anymore. I'm like, yeah, maybe, and then I actually bought him a crystal mat with like infrared and like all the biohacking things. And I was like, you just have to lay on that. You don't have to believe in it, right? Just lay on it. Don't believe in it. He's like, it won't work. And now all of a sudden he's like, oh, it feels good. I sleep better. So it's not about fighting for change. It's about creating an alternative that people can join, right? If they want. But even that has to come in freedom, for them. We can't force anyone to wake up or to, see the world in a different way. Like I'm very much against, people, not against, let them do their thing. But it's never been my approach to be like, look there, this is the cabal against us. This is there's the evil and there's, the pollution and the fluoride yes, that all might be something. But there's no point wasting my energy to like put even more pollution into the air by, provoking people or like making people angry against another part. That's a divide again. So all I can do is to say, here's a nice party you can join, this is my vibe over here. If you would like the vibe here, then join me, learn about what we do here in this alternative version of Earth, right? And there is peace and harmony. There's no talk and negative talk about whatever, because that's not what we want to have on the party.
No, but it's also training that muscle for ourselves, right? Because I think I'm a 3, right? Like that's my life's work. I'm the 3. My actual conscious sun to the viewers that are following human design. it's the trial and error, right? It's really walking through life in a bit of a chaotic state. And it's so funny because my mom always said to me, um, why do you always look for something else? Why are you always unhappy or always searching? And why are you always, wherever there's Sandra, there is chaos. This is literally what she says to me, even to this day. And when I came across human design at the Gene Keys, I'm like, oh, now I understand, right? We are exuding that. So even if we're unaware of it, we are walking this energy in this energy field regardless. And I think, like, to your point, the resistance that we're being trained to inhabit is mirrored to us from the outside. And there's so much separation going on. So there's no point in fighting anything outside of yourself, but to look at where am I resisting and where am I not open to a different way. And that's simply fear. So when you speak about your dad, and thank you for sharing, because I think that a lot of our listeners can relate to that. There's this immediate, oh no, that's not for me, and I can't place it, and immediately all of the systems just go up and activate that fear mode and say, I don't know it, so it must be dangerous, right? I have to protect myself. And then they go back into their belief system of, oh, this is what I feel stable in, and this is what I feel confident in, and then just argue from that place. So I've had my point in my awakening journey over the past 20 years where I was trying to not like get anybody on board that didn't want to, but convincing and saying like, oh, but you see, it's so much better to be on this side of no resistance. But actually, I was still resisting it, therefore looking for, a very agreeable environment. So,
I think in the early stages, it's very normal because if you
mhm,
find something that opens your worldview to, yeah, or shifts your worldview so much, and you feel like, fuck, that's the cure for the world in a way,
mhm,
right? Then it actually comes from a place of love that you want someone else to join. I
yeah,
remember my sister got vegan very, like, that back then there was not even any vegan product in the supermarket. She was really early, and she was 8 years old,
wow, yeah,
and all she did at the table was like convincing us why milk is evil and like all of the things, because she learned so much and she was passionate about it. She was
mhm,
passionate about it because she truly stood behind it. And yeah, there is this fine line between, being dogmatic then or judging people for not joining. That's a
mhm.
difference. You can be excited about something, wanting to share it, wanting people to know, wanting to shine a light on things. But when you start judging people or thinking less of people because they don't, right? Then it gets just, yeah, not nice.
Yeah, and I think a coping mechanism of mine was always sarcasm, and always just calling myself out as well, calling myself out for getting stuck in yet another system, because freeing yourself initially means that you think you need to replace the one system with another, right? Until you really reach that point of, and it's a continuous journey, right? Like even saying I need to call that out of, it's just not true. You're just always evolving and always just exploring another layer of it. So how does that yeah, how does being away from your, from Germany and from your heritage, if you want to put it into the genetic um sort of meaning, how does being away from that help you on your journey?
Well, I guess I feel freer to be true to myself in a way, even though over the years it got easier to be at home and be there and still be myself. But, that has been a deep healing journey for myself too. And at some point when I was able to do that, I felt responsible and I felt like I need to be there. I need to shine a light there. And even if I'm just,
Mm,
next to them, I kind of like hope that my energy field ripples over, right? Because I know how stuff works. but then I kept myself locked, and I know that's not my path. You know, looking at my chart, I'm also a Sag North Node. I just am meant
Me too,
to
yeah.
sprinkle my energy over the world in a way. I always see it as like the speed that pollinizes, you know, specific places. And I just, it took me a while to accept that and to know that I'm not leaving anyone behind
Mm.
because I do that. It's just my path. And yeah, I guess, you know, for me, it's about meeting those people and having those connections, meeting the earth, like all of these things I need to do in order to be of service the way that I came here to be. And to, yeah, and also, you know, it's been fascinating to me even that my brain at some point shifted and I started thinking in English. Everything came
Mm.
in English when I was still in, you know, in school, and I didn't understand, but now I get it, you know. It was just because internally I was already being prepared for the work that I came here to do. And yeah, so I always felt like an alien back home. So I'm like, I don't, I know I'm born here for a reason, but it feels weird, you know?
And
And
I can really relate, like North Node in Sagittarius. I have my North Node Sagittarius too.
ah,
And thinking in English, there was a switch. I actually remember the first time that I dreamt in English, I was 13.
yeah,
And this was basically back in Germany when I just started learning English, if you want to put it like that. And I love that perspective that you've just put into this, that being prepared to sort of be available in a much bigger context than just being locked into the, you know, whatever national mindset or whatever that means. And then, but that's again something that I've observed over the past years. It's happening anyway, whether I'm on board with this or not. It's like something is already happening. That's why I feel so many people feel so recognized and seen when they come across their human design or astrology, that they go like, oh, I always knew it. That's why people love personality tests, right? So why do you think, and this is sort of just switching gears a little bit, looking into those personality tests where everybody goes like, oh my God, that's so me. Why do you think that there's still such a stigma when it comes to astrology and systems like human design or the gene keys, when people really would like to feel a little bit more seen?
I think it's because in a way it's still, I mean, it's a deep programming, first of all, specifically when we talk about astrology. It's been so programmed and coded, and depending on what kind of code you have stored, you know, in your DNA, it's, I mean, it could be a religious coding, it could be, you
Mm.
know, like a cultish, whatever it is. And there's a reason for that, because I said it in my astrology school. Astrology is the language of energy of the universe. And when you know how to read it, you have the power.
Mm.
So guess who has been using that? You know, we're still using that today.
Yeah.
I mean, if we can go into that. I've talked a lot about you know, like mundane astrology and politics and what's happening. It's not a coincidence that the elections are during Scorpio season, that there's always some weird moon cycle happening when the financial market is having interesting stuff happening. That, you know, I mean, it's all very much out there, right? Because astrology is a system that lives in our cells, and we are being activated with the transits because they are coded in our cells,
Mm.
right? So if we know, okay, there's, you know, Uranus is going to, you know, be activating the whole collective, then we can use that time period to do some crazy shit, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because everyone is on the edge already. And so to come back to your question, that's why astrology has been so mystified and, you know, made being like, oh, it's a woo-woo thing, it's that, it's not real
Mm-hmm.
science, whatever, you know, so we don't pay attention to it or don't learn how to use it. Let's just say
Mm.
that. right? And with the gene keys, I think it's more so because it's so new. And then also, when people then also see, well, there's something with the DNA. I don't know if I want to go in there into that scientist, but then also it's maybe a little bit too much, like who are you to talk about like the cells and, some amino acids in codings and what kind of codon rings, like it can be a little bit out there. And I think that's why, but that's why we have guides or people that help us hopefully to make it a little bit more tangible. Like that's always been my approach, to bring it really down to earth, like practical examples, because it doesn't help you to go deep into yourselves when you don't know what that means on your day-to-day experience, right?
Yeah. And I think also just to see again, it's happening regardless. It's already happening. It's like, I don't need to make my heart beat. It's already beating. I don't need
Yeah,
to force
that's
myself
actually,
to breathe.
I wanted to speak to that actually, because I think that's a huge disclaimer we just have to put out there anyways. And you mentioned it before too. Everything we just talk about. I mean, I even say that to my clients, when we have a reading and we talk about all of these things, that's just to entertain the mind. But it's not why we actually meet.
Yeah.
The real stuff is happening without words, because it has to happen without words. Because as soon as words are in the field, it means that we are just engaging the mind again. And we talked about that earlier. It's just to soothe the mind, to, make the mind happy, to feel, the chatter of the mind. But the real stuff is always happening beyond the mind. It's on a cellular level, right now as we speak here. I mean, first of all, you and I, my energy field and your energy field, they synergize, they have a party, they dance together, Then you also can sometimes meet someone, a stranger on the street, and you notice just we are not having a party together. It's energy fields communicating. It's easy electromagnetism, because it's all energy. And then the mind is like, why is this like? The mind wants to figure out what's happening here. But it's happening anyways, if the mind knows why or not.
Yeah.
That's the thing what you said, like it's happening anyways. Like there's no point. Yes, it's fun to know, right? But then how much can you even know? You can
And
get.
also and also honoring the human journey. And I think like the longer I'm walking this path, the more I'm honoring the human going through this journey. Like in the beginning, especially in my early years of awakening, I was like, I couldn't wait to connect to that otherworldly reality, right? Like I was literally not in my body, and I was just like, well, why do we need all these complicated things of the human interactions when we can just live in that peace and harmony and love and light, right? But if there is no physical vessel transporting this energy into matter, then there is no enlightenment, right? My soul does not be enlightened. My soul is enlightened. So it is all about honoring the human journey and the human embodiment of that consciousness. And that for me is the sign of the times, that the world is going through such fast changes. The old structures are slowly in the higher consciousness sort of dissolving, and old structures are fading. People are becoming panicky, but all that's happening is that matter is transcended through energy, and that's where energy and consciousness meet. And how much of it needs to be conscious? I mean, in the past, I think maybe even 20 years ago when I started this journey, I was thinking like, oh, it's happening anyway. Yes, but there is a plan behind all of this. And this is where I would love to talk to you about human design, or the gene keys, and the prophecy of where we're headed as a humanity.
Well, double freedom, I always like to say when I look at Gene Key 55. The gift is freedom and the city is freedom. And hopefully we will get there and see that, it is actually a prophecy for anyone who taps into it. It is beyond words.
Mhm.
I think the most favorite aspect of what is shared in that transmission is that humanity will come to a state of awe.
Mhm.
And I think it's a realization. I've had these realizations in my life where I was just sobbing out of awe. And in a way, I've also kind of like felt stupid or ashamed for a second, because I was like,
Mhm.
how could I not see the beauty of the world like
Mhm.
this? How was I so blind?
Mhm.
You know? And I was looking at a flower and I was crying. I was like, I'm so sorry I didn't see your beauty,
Yeah.
because I was so caught up in my mind and my mental like issues and like things that the mind tells you are important, than literally paying attention to nature and to be like, you are so gorgeous and perfect.
Mhm.
But then also going into, I am a part of that perfection.
Mhm.
And the stages of nature also are the stages of my perfection.
Yeah.
A flower is not just perfect when it's blooming and
Mhm.
it's the perfection of the rose, right? It's beautiful and it's growing. It's beautiful when it dies. It's like all part of it. And that's it, to do, I mean, to go to or to find a place where there is just no judgment anymore.
Mhm.
Everything is the free expression of creation,
Mhm.
everything. And that's where we move into, where we also live in harmony with these cycles and the flow of life, and don't have so much resistance, because the judgment creates that resistance, right? This is not how it's supposed to be. I should be like this, or I should be at this stage in my life like that. And like, it's like, no, it's your unique growing cycle that nature designed for you. You just have to literally surrender to it, and
Yeah. And I
not
think,
think that it has to be like this person or that person. But obviously, again, it goes back to, it's not that it was not your idea that it should be different. You,
mhm.
you, you come here and be like, well, that's me. Is that wrong? And then you learn, yeah, that's wrong because X, Y, Z.
Yeah. Yeah, ultimately, I think all of the judgment and all of the strong opinions that humans have that keep these things separate from them, or these realizations of the perfection and the beauty of nature, it's just the fear of the that raw force, right? That is uncontrollable. And that will literally turn your life upside down if you surrender to it. So that's the resistance. The resistance comes out of fear, and therefore the judgment arises. So I think now looking at the world, the distractions are really all over the place. We have a smaller attention span than ever before. Time goes faster, therefore, right? But that's just the energy basically transcending time and space. So I'm noticing that I'm becoming way more present with the beauty, and therefore tapping into that timelessness and into the beauty and of the into the perfection of the ever-changing nature of things. And I think that's what probably subtly at the moment is happening in mass consciousness too, that people might not even need to go down the spiritual route of consciously following the awakening journey, but all of a sudden we'll just realize, oh, I'm paying more attention to nature. Oh, I didn't even feel the time passing. And I think the one thing that people like you and me and so many others right now are fulfilling is reminding those the other that is already opening up to it, and that's happening through the interactions like we're having now. We're filling the space with words, and we're filling, you know we might put on some meaning here and there, but ultimately, like you say, there is a presence to tap into beyond all of this, all of the appearance.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think, that it's a big part of what we are moving into, out of the cross of planning and into the sleeping phoenix. And in a way, over the last years, we've been forced to learn that more and more, because the sleeping phoenix is this you wake up and you don't know what's coming, you know,
Mm-hmm.
you don't know what's on the agenda. There is no plan to it. And it can be shocking, you know, because, and I've witnessed that in my own mind where it just it's comedy at some point, where the mind wakes up with all of these things to do here, there, and that, you know, the whole agenda and plan. And then, at least in my field, I'm just not able to live like that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, my whole system is collapsing. So I'm noticing my mind having an agenda, but something else is doing my life, you know? The way it's
Mm-hmm.
like, I know that, you know, I just wanted to go to the kitchen and like drink some water. And then I find myself in the supermarket buying pineapple. I'm like, wait a second, that was not what the mind, like, how, you know, what the
Yeah.
fuck just happened, kind of, right? And that's the way these new humans that we can talk about are more like, they will express that unapologetically. You know, for us, it might feel right now as, you know, you're tripping or something, you're on a psychedelic like drug and it's like taking over, and you're like, the mind wants to do something else, and or like bipolar, however you want to label it, or ADHD, but it's more instinctual, like the body is
Mm-hmm.
just a vessel, the
Mm-hmm.
vehicle is taking over, you know, the energy, the real you, so to speak, is taking over. It's like, I'm going to take you to the supermarket because his energy system right now needs the pineapple for whatever upgrade, you know. And I stopped questioning, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it is actually, you know, some enzymes in the pineapple. Sometimes it's, no, actually I'm meant to meet this stranger in the supermarket, and
Exactly.
what's with
Yeah.
the dangling carrot? I mean, what do I know? I don't need to know. I'm just following, you know,
Mm-hmm.
wherever this ship is, you know, bringing me. And yes, I can have resistance and be like, no, I'm set that I would sit down and write something and be productive, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then what happens to my energy field? Probably not thriving.
Mm-hmm.
I've tried that, you know, where I was just
Me too.
forced, pushing the agenda, so to speak, and be like, no, that's what, but then you end up exhausted, drained, and, or like, you know, you have health stuff or whatever, because
Mm-hmm.
it's like the energy of consciousness is just literally giving you feedback that, you know, you have to follow it now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way we will operate in the future, more instinctual, again, like animals, like nature,
Mm-hmm.
where there is no, the flower is like, well, today is not a good day to soak up the sun because I need to write an essay, right? The flower knows, no, I need that in order to grow, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Or a cat is like, I don't know, even know that time exists. I'm sleeping now because I feel like it.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean, you know? And we've been so programmed to live only from the agenda of the mind. And then again, we have to ask ourselves, these suggestions that the mind gives on a day-to-day basis, where do they even come from?
Mm-hmm.
What are they? Are they influenced by social media, by the environment, by old programming, or do they actually come from your own self? It's like, and the safest way to go your own direction and route is to really follow the vehicle, you know? Sit down in the vehicle and be like, drive me, and the first impulse you follow.
And that is, you know, it sounds really simple. And that's the, you know, basically the body intelligence taking over, the body consciousness taking over my whole field, just knowing that that's what's right for me, but still existing in a time-space continuum that suggests otherwise, right? And that's really been such a big challenge of mine, even in the past years, to align those two. So in a way, noticing, okay, I'm now integrating a lot, so I need to just be by myself and just take a complete away time, downtime, not be in any relationship, not distract myself with alcohol, not distract myself with anything, but just be in that space to integrate and let my cells do the wisdomizing, right? And still then realizing that bills still need to be paid, right? Like, how do you even um and you know, I'm having this internal conversation while I'm speaking, that basically life is always taking care of you, that even in the times that, you know, there was a lot of financial lack, or you know, that it was getting really difficult, I was still taken care of. So it's again the judgment of I should have more, and I'm not safe or whatever. So the complete surrender into trust the phases of your life and of your body intelligence, knowing intrinsically what this phase is about. Like for me, for example, like I said, complete pullback of all of the energies just to integrate and just to really land in that new alignment. And then at some point, I needed to be in life, but as a 4-6, right? So in human design, my profile is a 4-6, which means that I need my network. I need people around me, my people. I need a tribe around me. All of my opportunities, all of my possibilities will come through me thriving in a network. But I was completely deprived of that because I just had this long period of integration. So I had no tribe and energy became pretty much stagnant, I felt. And it was time to be in life, to actually take the next step in my evolution and take this whatever I had just integrated and embody now into life, and now find myself with 2 side jobs in hospitality and retail, where I'm constantly interacting with people. But it was such a switch from the one downtime to now you have to be in life now. And you know what it feels like, right? When life says now, you hit the ground running and you don't know what's happening.
Yeah. It's not easy, and then it takes some time of adaptation, but you also notice that it actually is easy because if it's really coming from the need and the soul urge, then it actually is easier than the mind thinks. It's the same in a way. I haven't really traveled and moved too much, and now I'm like, oh gosh, like how did I even do that years ago? Like it feels like such a big thing. And I know that when I'm in it, I don't even know how it all happens. It's just happening. And
That's
I
such a
find
good point. Yeah. It's so important to address this because I think that, again, we're creatures of habit. We
yeah,
like it comfortable in the mind. We get used to a situation, and then, life says, okay, now, Kathy, now you're going to travel to Bali. And then you go like, but now it feels uncomfortable because I haven't done it in a while. And I don't know if I feel safe enough to put myself out there like this again, right? And then, like you say, when you're in it, you go like, what was I even worrying about? Like, this is just comes so naturally, right? Let's talk about that trust and how important that is on that journey.
it's, I mean, I have it as a tattoo even, love, trust, surrender. It's,
Mm,
I mean, what I always say is it doesn't make sense for nature not to support you.
mm,
And it also goes to I mean, I know exactly what you mean. I took almost a year off of like really being out there on social media and like really, doing the work that I do. And I'm like, well, who's gonna pay the bills? Like, I was so
mm,
terrified when I was, when I had this, like, no, you gotta be like a hermit for a month or even
yeah.
for a year or even longer. People will forget about me, and who's gonna pay, and like, how do I pay rent? And what can I say? I was supported.
Mm,
I have no idea where the money came from.
mm,
Next thing I know, I was like cat sitting friends, she was in India for 2 months, and here and there opportunities were there that I couldn't even think
mm,
about. I'm like, oh, that's actually a win-win for both people, you
mm.
know, where we think so out of the box, and the cat is going into
I
madness.
love this. Is it a cat
Hiding in
or
the
a
closet.
ghost?
Yes, hiding in the closet. Yeah, if you see the closet opening and closing. Anyways, I'm not hiding anything in the closet. No, that's it. It's the mind thinks it has to have all the solutions before we even risk something.
Mm,
And that's us already not trusting nature, because you're like, I can't trust nature. I need to have a plan on top of nature just to be sure and safe. And then that's just not how it works. We have to be
mm,
like, no, I feel it as like pretty sure, yes, in my soul. So I have to be provided for. It has to be safe. It doesn't make sense. It's not like, again, going back to the flower analogy, that would be thinking that nature's best interest is that the flower is going to die and never going to return, you know? If nature wanted to destroy you, you just wouldn't wake up in the morning. Because what is breathing? What is making your heart beat? What is bringing you back into this realm in the morning? And so if you were meant to be destroyed, you would just that's the easier option here, to just be like, okay, then there's no breath anymore.
Yeah. And to this level of trust really makes the mind uncomfortable, right? And I've recently really differentiated for me what the mind is versus the brain or the intelligence or the body intelligence, right? Because all of these are nuances, right? But it really helps to differentiate between me identifying with the resistance or the mind versus coming to a new understanding of the body intelligence always knows best because, hey, it's supporting me. My heart is beating while we're speaking, even though I don't pay attention to it. So that level of trust, oftentimes, I mean, life really pushes us into that, right? How these situations then turn out, but ultimately trusting that you're going to, through the detour or through not going that route this day, or through the downtime or whatever, actually trusting that that will bring you to exactly where you need to be. Yeah. So what's your prediction when it comes to let's say the next year and a half? Because I have my own idea when it comes to, okay, how are we going to get to freedom?
Yeah, I mean, by understanding or waking up to what keeps us from it. And I think there is just more of these revelations that are going to happen. And sometimes we also need to be forcefully taking away from something we think keeps us, in order to understand it actually kept us hostage. So I think there's still this period of, okay, disruption and chaos, and initiating where we need to move out of something we think is keeping us safe, because we didn't see that it was actually disconnecting us from the freedom. So the next year and a half, I mean, a lot of that was still going to happen. I think this year is very significant, very much so, with Pluto really finishing up in Capricorn, and then finally moving into Aquarius and not coming back again. And I mean, I won't shut up about November 15. This day is just going to be kind of like a January 2020 experience. And
It's my daughter's birthday.
Oh, really?
She's turning 21.
Oh, and also in a Saturn cycle.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hot day. Let's just say that. And from that day, I think there will be a lot of fluctuations in the energy field and how we're all going to digest. And then we will see. But I ultimately, what I see and sense in the field is, and it's happening almost like no matter what, what goes to what we also said, it's happening anyways, where people are just creating alternatives already anyways. So I don't think that it will be the scary as we're all going to not know how to eat situation. It's like the alternatives will be there while stuff is hitting the fan.
Yeah, so you're differentiating between what's hitting the fans, basically just like a motor that's blowing up in your face because it's just served its purpose, right? While already, you know, the other opportunity is right there next to you. And I think that's exactly it. Also feeling into especially the next generation or the newer generations, talking about my daughter and just seeing how many young ones are struggling right now with mental health, or are being diagnosed with being on the spectrum, and you know, have all of these issues not fitting into this world. I think it's going to ramp up a little bit, but most of those young ones, at least, you know, my kids, my son is turning 23, my daughter will be 21 soon. I feel that most of them are still biding their time at the moment. So it's almost like they don't know where to put themselves because it's not their time yet, you know?
And it's like this, you know, I mean, I speak a lot about the brain and, you know, all these labels that we put in like the medical system and things like that. Even with my clients, you know, I have a lot of clients that also have children. And when I help them understand their children through the human design, I'm like, it's not ADHD, it's not autism, they are not designed to have an attention span for that. And because they already operate from that new lens and perspective, they just have a no bullshit agenda in their brain. That's, you know, conscious, like, I'm not even gonna try,
Yeah.
you know, like, and when they are being forced, then yeah, there's the likelihood that they rebel against it. It's like, this is not what, like, literally,
Yeah.
they just know, like, that's not what I'm meant to do. Who are you to tell me, you know? And then also, obviously, they are very clever and see, like, well, it's not working for you, adult. You know, you're not happy and thriving. You can sense it in your energy field. Why should I even
Yeah.
do what you suggest? So it's like they actually guide us into what we should do, you know? We should have a little bit more no bullshit agenda. I'm not gonna sit my ass in an office for, you know, 9 hours just to please someone to get a paycheck and waste my life. But then also, obviously, there is this part where this generation is confused and lost because where do they place themselves? Like, there's this point where they might not have a perspective where, you know, if hope is lost and they're like, fuck, I don't want to end up like my parents. Society is a mess. I can see through the bullshit. The world is collapsing and I'm in the middle of it. And I'm not able right at this point to take care of myself. So I need to kind of like do something. I don't know what it is. So depression is a huge thing, right? Escapism with all the Pisces energies too, where they just like, well, then I'm just gonna go into like drugs and stuff like that to just escape this world. Suicides and things like that. But ultimately, I feel that, you know, a lot of those souls also are being initiated and activated in helping us to prepare and birth new things into the world. They are also the geniuses of tomorrow, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think most of them are born into families that, you know, where the structures are really needing to transcend and really needing to loosen up, and they feel lost because they have no role models, right? So I think, again, you know, creating spaces where these things are talked about is so important, where true interaction can happen and connection. So like last week, or when you watched this 2 weeks ago, I was speaking with Lena, and Lena is in her early 20s, and you know, she's come through Syria, and so there's been like this whole refugee situation, and she just feels like such a wise soul. It's just, she just doesn't fit into her generation, you know, comparing herself with others. But I think there's a majority of that generation right now dormant, or almost like muted at the moment. And I think at some point they'll be activated, like you say, and will show us the way. But yeah, and I think it's so important to see both, right? I see the low skills that they are lacking, like true connection, being in nature, using their bodies, actually moving the energies through their bodies rather than through, you know, social media or whatever. So it's going to be interesting to see what this next year and a half, and that's also a time frame that I have, that I'm always getting when I'm tuning in. Like the next year and a half will be crunchy when you only look at the things that are falling apart. But the sooner we can pay attention to what's emerging and what's rising, it's going to be a beautiful time. I'm a very hopeful person. I really believe that we are entering into Bliznini mode.
I mean, we will enter, what we always dreamed of. And it's
Mhm.
just about buckling through what keeps us from that. And yeah, for me, it's always until 2027. But year and a half, I mean, we are very close to that anyways. And yeah, it's gonna be interesting. And I also see, again, there's a trend in uprise, and even, us like being invested in providing alternatives for these children, like really helping them, learn. I mean, just the other day, my friend showed me how she did like a sound healing in the school, and like the children were loving it. And,
Mhm.
like where they actually learn that there are tools that support them in their energy field, and hopefully have parents that don't just instantly give them Ritalin or some sort of drug, that might try some herbs, or flower remedies, or naturopaths. Like I do sense that there is a shift also in parents to be like, no, I'm actually tuning into my child, and not just going into there's something wrong with it. And that's also a huge shift that I've noticed. And I think that's, again, it's happening from a higher energy that's taking over, and that is
Mhm.
signaling mom to be like, hey, wait a second, before you go down that path, maybe there is an alternative way. Because intuitively she feels there's nothing wrong with my child,
Mhm.
need some other things, to support them. And maybe we can try this and that. And maybe even through that, the mother learns something, like some hacks, for other children and whatever, and an innovation is happening in that kind of field. So it's like all initiating us in moving towards alternative ways of navigating our own energy field, and supporting others along the way too.
Mhm. And even taking the judgment out of if somebody chooses to go a different path, because while I totally agree with you, I think that that's really where the new consciousness will emerge first, like in those in the parenting situations. But also I've experienced the opposite, right? Like my son was really struggling with mental health issues, and because I've always been on this path of just go the natural route, it's just trying to support him in his becoming, especially in his teenage years, from that, from that other space. Also realizing at some point, he needed to differentiate himself for himself. He needed to individualize, which meant he's a 1-3 generator, right? So he needs to do things the way that he feels is right for him. There is no, I could be standing on my head, like literally it does not affect him at all. So I needed to respect that. At some point he said, okay, I'm going to turn away from all of this woo-woo, and I need to create my own reference points, and do my own research, and become really disconnected from that whole natural world, and seeing, or opening that up to him being free to choose whatever method suited him. He was going into the medication, mental health medication, and it was a blessing for him. He was struggling really hard, like with mental health, with panic attacks and anxiety, and really literally physically going through hell, like having 6 panic attacks a day, just shaking. And at some point that was the solution that he went for, and I could see his whole system relaxing, right?
Yeah, I mean, again, that's also the mind in your case, the persona I use. You might have been like, oh gosh, whatever. But
Mhm.
it's when you read the energy, well, if he's a 1-3, he's his own research.
Mm-hmm.
and he just has to go and into the experience and figure it out. And I mean, I'm the first person saying there's not one size fits all,
Yeah.
otherwise and it's like it's being your own guinea pig. For some people, sound healing might work. For some people, flower
Yeah.
essences work. For some systems, it's psychedelics. For some
Yeah.
systems, it's, completely distracting themselves so they are
Mm-hmm.
less in their mind. It's and for some people it might be the medical system, because there is some ingredient in that drug that really changes the synapses in the brain, and it just has to be that chemical, and there's
And
nothing.
even that's such a great point, because what it reminds me of is, the vaccination.
Yeah.
And naturally, I was very much, through the whole pandemic, I was very aware of, the potential damage it would be doing. But at some point, I woke up in the morning and I was like, okay, I need to get that vaccination. It was so clear for me. And I've double checked it, I've triple checked it for myself. And all of the response was, go get it. And the insight that came with that, and I'm not saying that that's true for anybody else, it was just true for me, that through me being part of that, something was added, an energy awareness was added into the whole field of maybe vaccination also. And I don't know, and I might never know the full spectrum of why that was right for me, but it was right for me. And I never felt that that was wrong. And that was the only time that I went that route, right? And I just trusted that. That's what I need to do, like you with the pineapple thing, right? You just go like, I don't know why, but there must be something going on. So again, also even if we're natural paths or whatever.
I mean, I had a similar situation last year where I found myself in a hospital, like literally the same hospital 4 times. And I was like, what is going on? I don't want to end up in the hospital for the same condition again. And before, I was always not wanting the treatment that they were offering because I knew that like it's not the cure for what is happening.
Mhm,
Like, and even the suggestion of it was kind of weird. So basically, I had a lot of water retention, and every time they were like, "We give you antibiotics." And I'm like,
mhm,
it has nothing to do with it's like a lymphatic system, whatever. So why do they suggest antibiotics? Just because I had an injury with my legs and stuff like that, and I'm like, okay, maybe there's an infection, but they literally said there is no infection, but just to be safe, like we would get like to give you antibiotics. And in the past, as a child, and that like I always had issues with antibiotics and was never vaccinated. Like all of these things, I've always had to use like natural stuff. And I was like, I don't get the message here. I was literally like, why do I have to
mhm.
be the 4th time with the same option? And then this time I was like, okay, I'm just gonna try something different
Yeah.
now and take the
Mhm,
antibiotics. Because maybe there's something that will be changed in my gut flora that is important that I don't know, and I do
yeah.
a lot of things for my gut, but hey, I mean, let's just wipe out everything and
Mhm,
build it up from scratch.
mhm,
Maybe it helps because the gut stores so much energy, and I know that. And maybe that's the only way to like clean the slate in a way that I need, right? And so I did it, and
yeah.
yes, there was this part in me that was like, antibiotics are evil, and I'm always like, but I'm like, it doesn't matter because now I know what to do afterwards to get
Mhm,
myself into a state of balance. I know I just have to, and I do that anyways, kimchi, kombucha, and to have a good probiotic, and I will be fine. Like there's nothing to be afraid of, right?
mhm,
And yeah, sure enough, I mean, something worked. Or again, maybe it's just about me being in that hospital and talking to
mhm.
these people.
And the less I mentalize it, the better. It just lands, right? Like just trusting that there's always this, what do I know? Right? I
Yeah.
can try to follow a thought down the rabbit hole, and then I just go like, well, I'm so connected with myself. And even if I did make a misstep, life will always redirect me. There's that deep-rooted trust that I cannot make a mistake. Like it's all going to work out fine. And that's also what life is about, really trial and erroring our way forward, and says the three.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's so important that, you know, we also hold it very lightly, right?
Yeah, with a sense of humor that, you know, we won't ever understand completely why. You know, it's some things just can't be explained. And, you know, the mind wants to have an explanation, but it's I like that analogy. I talk a lot about that on the podcast too, where it's like you enter a room and you see two, I'm just speaking for women, or like anyways, doesn't matter. But I enter a room and I see two men, and I have this cellular activation with that one man, where my energy field is like, "Eh, I can't explain. I don't know anything about the person, no background whatsoever. It's pure energy.
Yeah.
And it can't be, there is no sense to it. There's definitely no logic. It really doesn't make any sense.
Mm.
Because, you know, maybe the guy next to it looks better, has a better paper or whatever. I know them already. Like, I don't know. I've heard stories about why this is such a great person. I'm like, I don't know what it is about this guy, but my energy field is just lit up, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And yes, I can sit there and analyze and wonder why I'm not attracted to the other, but it's,
Yeah. So becoming really curious about following that, those breadcrumbs, right? Like for me, that's really what it's about, really seeing that I'm always guided, I'm always in response, being a manifesting generator, right? I'm always in response to what's being put in front of me. And the less I resist it, the more I can open up to even more magic.
yeah, and the more fun life
Yeah.
becomes. It's like, it's this great exploration and experiment, and we wake up in the morning like, let's find out what's in store for us
Yeah.
today. You know,
Yeah.
it's exciting. It's like all these surprises that are popping up left and right, and you're like, okay, let's jump into it, you know?
Mhm. So even giving that as a kind of an option to our audience here listening to us or watching us, uh, even if you just give yourself like a day, you know, maybe to put the mind at ease, like, okay, you're going to get your airtime again, but, you know, let's just try this for a day or just for a couple of hours, just to see what feels right. All of a sudden you're, you know, watching and observing yourself, how you go to the fridge or how you start to interact with a person or whatever, to just become really curious about it. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's switch gears. We're coming to the sexy six questions that I'm always curious about. Um, what skill would you like to have?
Ooh, that's a tough one. But I think to go deeply into the cells,
Mm,
to go deeply into the cells and have a conversation with them. Like, what
mm,
are they exploring? Like, what's going on there? Yeah, I think that would be a skill. Yeah.
that's awesome. Please report back to us. Um, if you were president of the world or New Earth, what would your first law be?
Mm, I think for everyone to share and speak what they came here to do.
Mm,
Like, law number one is you tell me what you want to do.
wow. Mm-hmm. It'd be a different world, wouldn't it?
And it's like, you know, almost taking note, oh, okay, that's your role in the team, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. If you could spend an hour with anyone, dead or alive or fictional, a fictional character, who would it be and what would you be doing?
I would talk to Tesla.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I would sit with him and be like, I get you, buddy. Damn, I'm so sad I missed you. Can we just continue what you started back then? You
Mm-hmm.
know?
Yeah. Yeah, what a game changer. Looks like being born way ahead of his time, but then again, just as at the perfect time, actually. What's next? Your favorite book or movie or song of all time and why?
Song, definitely Patrick Parks' Life is a Song.
I
One
don't know
more.
that one.
So good. So good. What did you say, movie?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a few actually. I love Inception, just
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah.
then one of the other ones will forever be The Great Gatsby.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know why, it's just I love it. I would say those two. I could watch
I
them
can
all.
see a Leonardo DiCaprio theme going on here.
Oh, true. Because I wanted to say Titanic as well. Oh my God. I think I'm brainwashed by Leonardo
I
and
think
Shutter
you're a little
Island.
bit above his age range.
Yeah. It's not really about him. It's really about, Inception is just the
Mhm.
storyline, and
Yeah.
Great Gatsby is just romance. So I'm both.
Yeah.
And book, I really love The Alchemist
Mm.
and everything Paulo Coelho ever
Mhm.
writes, and The Seth Material for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Then what's your most controversial opinion?
Mm, I mean, I don't know if it's controversial. I guess to some people, for me, it's already so normal
Mm.
that we, wake up in a different dimension every single day. And
Mm.
the body is different. Like everything is different the moment we wake up. Like we wake up in a different reality. Not even just in the morning, but that's more obvious. But also when we take a nap, and it's just like, reality shifts all the time. It's like always a different body. It's always a different environment.
That's a nice one also as a reminder to always treat each moment as a new moment,
Yeah.
new potentials. Um, yeah, and then what are you most excited about and for the future, for yourself or for, mass consciousness?
To have a party with anyone, or like everyone finally, I feel like when I was younger, I always felt like I'm just here to have fun with energy and like talk about these things that we talk about now, and now we live it, and I'm like,
Mm.
it's exciting. And I know that it's gonna be even stronger, and a few years from now, it's just gonna be so normal to have these
Mhm.
conversations, and that's paradise, you
Yeah,
know
yeah, reason for celebration. I totally agree. Um, yeah, I love this whole conversation. Um, and I'm curious about who you would recommend for me to speak with next. Like, who in your network do you think I should have a conversation with?
I definitely want you to speak to Lisa,
Hmm.
because she's gonna bring another perception and view into the field. She's a psychic medium.
Hmm.
She's so much more than just a psychic medium, but she's definitely tapped into other worlds, and yeah, sees beyond the veil, and even there's so much magic that she's going to bring, and I'm curious to see how, or what kind of conversation you two will have for sure.
I'm excited about that. What question should I ask her on your behalf?
Hmm. Ask her about her own mind
Hmm.
and how
Anything
she
specific?
how she how she speaks to her own mind and handles her own mind.
Mm, I love that. Yeah, I will do. I'm on it. And of course, last but not least, where can people find you and your work and what you think is a go-to where people can really connect with you?
So the easiest way is at Magic Kathy official on Instagram, or Systems of Existence on Instagram, or on the podcast. Like the podcast is called Systems of Existence now. And Magic Kathy on YouTube as well. But I think Instagram is the easiest way. I share my
Mm.
weekly forecaster energy reports. I share also the updates of the podcast over there. And whoever wants to, have a session with me, you can always DM me. My highest like aim is always to connect with people first. So please DM me, like, voice message me, whatever I want to talk to you before we talk. And yeah, so yeah, just connect, it's all about connection.
Yeah. And that's how we connected. I can totally recommend you guys go find Kathy on Instagram, and her forecasts are just completely spot on, and just such a support throughout the week. And you always make sure that we have little reminders throughout the week through your stories that you bring us back to, oh, remember what I said in the beginning of the week, it's this day, and how did you feel? And you always do those check-ins, which I really love, and gives all of us the opportunity to stop and take a moment of reassessing, how am I doing, what's happening right now. So, and like you said, you've got the new title of your podcast, but all of the old episodes are still there. I checked this morning. I was very happy to see that you kept all of this intact, so people can also go back and just see what they're drawn to.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a rename, but I kept the same platform basically. So, you can still go into the old episodes where it was the Magic Kathy show, because there's so much, like, I think almost 300 episodes where you
so
can
much
learn
goodness.
about stuff. And, I sometimes also refer back to episodes from 2020 or from whenever, just because it's supportive, it's not, time and space doesn't exist. But the focus of Systems of Existence is now more so to have these conversations with experts in the field about geometry, sound healing, about all these alternative, innovative ideas. If Tesla would be, he would be a guest too, to talk about, because it's what we need to have more conversations like that. So, young adults might find that. I'm like, oh, cool. That's a party I want to play in, and finally, I'm not alone in this world contemplating on, the tetrahedron or whatever. There are people that talk about these things, that have deeper questions, that question reality. And yeah, my aim is that after every single episode, your perception about how this world works and how you see it changes, elevates, and gets you curious for more, basically.
Yeah, and especially I think that's also what I'm discovering or observing, that basically we're shifting from needing to understand ourselves or healing ourselves to understanding or broadening our perspective and horizon on what's out there, right? So I can feel that shift is happening right now, and I love that you're contributing to that. So thank you so much for this conversation, to whatever you offer for your whole being, and I'm just really excited to share this conversation with my universe.
Thank you so much for having me. It was my pleasure, and I loved the conversation.
Yeah, thank you. All the best to you, Kathy.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks for tuning into the Rocketwoman Show. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please like and subscribe, leave a comment, and share it with your universe. We can always inspire each other's orbits. All episodes are available on YouTube and Spotify, and new ones are always released on a Friday. For updates, you can find me on Instagram at The Rocketwoman Show, and if you're interested in my work as a guidance coach, I work with human design, the gene keys, astrology, and plenty of other intuitive wisdom that I've collected over the past 20 years. So if that resonates, go and check out my website, thezencubator.com, or follow the Zen Cubator on Instagram or Facebook. I wish you a magical week and hope to welcome you back next time.